Well, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, I do call and response. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I just want to make sure everybody's awake. And also, as I said, I do call and response. So it's really great to be here. I first of all want to thank Mary and her team for the invitation. Of course, Eileen for the introduction, and all of you for the opportunity to spend a little bit of time here in Omaha. I bring you greetings from Bennett College for Women. We are an oasis where we educate and celebrate women and develop them into 21st century leaders and global thinkers. We have focused on leadership, entrepreneurship, communications, and global studies as part of my administration at Bennett College for Women, and those 4 themes have informed my work for the past several years. Before I move ahead, I also want to thank Adrienne Minks. Her speech was just absolutely stellar. Give her another hand, because I just really enjoyed that. And I learned a lot from it. You know, there are a lot of things one can do with leadership. I remember giving a talk about 10 years ago, and so Googling the word leadership and having 1.3 million responses come up. And so that was kind of interesting. From that exercise, I came up with my leadership quote. If you think you're leading, but you look back and nobody's following, you're not leading, you're just tripping. You know, a lot of people who say, I'm a leader, but part of the proof of the pudding is, have you been able to get anybody else to follow? I describe leadership as the audacity to galvanize. The audacity to galvanize, to lead and inspire people, to step up and step out. And I think the work that's being done today is so very important. The theme for my talk is Women Hold Up Half the Sky. Now, if you go Google that, I'm a little bit of a Google addict. If you go Google that, you'll find that some people think of it as an ancient Chinese proverb, but others will tell you that it's just as young as Mao Zedong, that it really didn't come back from centuries and centuries, but that it's relatively new. Well, whether it's a Chinese proverb, ancient or recent, the fact is the fact. Women do hold up half the sky. And what does that mean? It means that we can't develop communities unless we develop women. It means we can't talk about economic development unless we talk about women. I appreciate Steve and the data that he gave, with Nebraska having the 3rd highest percentage of women in the labor market, but the basically 2nd to lowest percentage of women in management. At least you're not the lowest. And there is room always for improvement. And the fact is that when we focus on women's roles and women's possibilities, we basically put an engine into place. Here's the deal, guys. We cannot afford as a nation, as these United States of America, to sideline one working brain. We cannot afford to say, well, we're going to promote this person because he's male and not promote this person because she's female. The fact is that all of us are needed if our country is to do the work that we say we want to do. President Obama has asked that we lead the world again in the number of college graduates, that we lead the world again. We don't lead. We did once. We don't anymore. Interesting piece of data. If you take people who are 55 to 64 and look at their academic achievement, about 40% of those folks, 38% to be exact, have either AA or BA degrees. What does that mean? The United States ranks first in the world of people 55 to 64 with AA or BA degrees. Well, that's interesting, but people who are 55 to 64 or as my golfing friends call it, on the back 9. So while they certainly still, and I count myself among that number, while we certainly still have a lot to contribute, the fact is that the number of years that we contribute is going to be just a little limited. Now let's look at another population, 25 to 34. 25 to 34. I bet none of you can guess what percentage of that population also has an AA or BA degree. It's the same. It's about 39%, so maybe 1%. What does that mean? Our nation has not been able to improve its delivery of educational services in a 30-year period. In a 30-year period, we haven't been able to get more folk engaged and involved in education, and especially in higher education. It's a frightening statistic when we look at where we are. But all the more frightening is the notion that we're still, with women the majority of our undergraduate students now in the nation. Women are the majority. And only African Americans is actually 2 to 1. 2/3 of the young African Americans enrolled in college are women. 1/3 are men. Among Latinos, men still do dominate, but among the overall population, among whites, it's 55-45. So women are more likely to go to college these days than men are. But guess what? After they graduate, they're still often moving into what we call sexually segregated jobs. Women are not being given the same opportunities. And I would argue there are lots of reasons for that, but the one that troubles me the most is the extent to which we hold ourselves back as women. I told Mary when we had this wonderful phone call about this conference, I shared an experience that I'll share with you. I have the opportunity, it's a blessed opportunity, to lead 720 young women at Bennett College for Women and to have other folks who are interested and exciting come to the campus. So I went to a North Carolina Women's Summit and met this woman who was just a pistol. I mean, she was phenomenal. She wore red. She talked a lot. She was a banker, so a six-figure banker, and she just exuded capability. She was also the vice chair of an organization that was teaching women how to run for public office. So I said, she'd be great for the campus. Okay, she came, she gave a great talk, but in the middle of her talk, she shared that the governor of North Carolina, Bev Perdue, a phenomenal woman, had appointed her to a workplace development council. And then she said, and I don't know if I was really qualified for that. Now, I really had to sit my hand on my rear. I had to just hold my hand back because I wanted to just grab her and shake her. Because after she'd given the basic wonderful talk, she did what so many women do. What's that? We put ourselves down. That self-deprecating notion that, oh, gee, maybe I'm not qualified. Now, I want my male brothers here to understand that this next comment has nothing to do with you, personally. But when you look at men, even the intern thinks he's qualified to be the CEO. Think about it. Even the intern's like, oh, yeah, I can do that. But when you look at we women, I mean, we've got all the degrees, all the experience. We're like, well, I don't know if I can do that. So if I can't give you any other message, I would give you President Obama's message. Yes, we can. Yes, we can do anything that we set our minds out to do. And one of the things that we must do is lead. The consequences of women not holding up our end is that our nation suffers. Not just women suffer and our families suffer, but our nation suffers if we choose to sideline women's contribution.